Most people see a small crack in a wall and ignore it. At first it looks harmless, just a thin line near the corner of a garage, a tiny split beside a window, maybe a crack running across a driveway that appeared sometime after winter. But months later, that tiny crack becomes wider. Dirt starts collecting inside it. Water slips through during rainstorms. In colder places, the trapped water freezes, expands, and slowly pushes the crack even farther apart. And suddenly, what looked like a small cosmetic issue becomes an expensive repair. Now here's the interesting part. For years, homeowners, maintenance workers, and even some DIY builders have talked about a surprisingly cheap powder-based material that can help reduce moisture problems around small surface cracks before they grow worse. It's inexpensive, easy to find, and often sitting quietly in hardware stores for just a few dollars. But most people walk right past it without thinking twice. And once you understand why this simple powder matters, you may never look at cracks in concrete walls or garages the same way again. A few years ago, a homeowner in the Midwest noticed something strange in his garage floor. Every winter, the same thin crack kept getting larger. He tried ignoring it, then he covered it with paint. Later, he even placed storage shelves over it so he wouldn't have to look at it, but the crack kept returning. One rainy season, water started slowly entering through the garage floor during storms. Not enough to flood the place, but enough to create damp spots and musty smells. At first, he assumed the concrete itself was weak, but after talking with a local repair worker, he learned something surprising. In many cases, small cracks become worse, not because the material suddenly fails, but because moisture keeps entering tiny openings over and over again. And that's where certain dry mineral powders and crack-filling compounds became popular in older repair methods. Not as magical fixes, not as secret tricks, but simply as affordable ways to help seal small surface gaps before larger damage begins. Most people never think about this, but moisture quietly affects homes every single day. Water expands, heat changes materials. Cold temperatures shrink them again. Concrete moves slightly. Walls shift over time. Tiny openings appear naturally as buildings age. And once water finds its way into those openings, the cycle often continues. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might completely change how you look at small cracks around your home. For decades, builders have used different materials to deal with surface-level cracks. Some methods involve flexible sealants. Others use repair compounds mixed with sand, cement, or minerals. But one of the most commonly discussed low-cost materials in DIY repair conversations is powdered hydraulic cement. Now, despite the complicated name, the basic idea is actually simple. This type of powder is designed to harden quickly when mixed with water. It has been commonly used in repair situations where small gaps or surface openings allow moisture to enter concrete or masonry. And here's where it gets really interesting. The powder itself is not expensive. In many hardware stores, small amounts can cost only a few dollars. That's why many homeowners became curious about it online. Compared to large repair jobs costing hundreds or even thousands of dollars, a low-cost repair material naturally attracts attention. But before we continue, it's important to understand that this is based on general repair knowledge and commonly discussed DIY methods. Real-world results depend heavily on the size of the crack, moisture conditions, structural movement, weather exposure, and the condition of the surface itself. This is not a guaranteed solution for every situation. Large structural damage always requires proper inspection. Now, one reason these powders became popular is because they work differently from ordinary paint or cosmetic fillers. Paint may cover a crack visually, but moisture can still move underneath. Some repair powders, on the other hand, are designed to fill gaps more deeply when applied correctly to clean surfaces. That's why preparation matters so much. And honestly, this is the part many people skip. If dust, oil, loose concrete, or moisture sit inside the crack, repair materials often struggle to bond properly. Professionals usually spend more time cleaning and preparing the area than people expect. In fact, many repair workers say the cleaning stage can be more important than the actual filling process. You might not expect this part. Some small cracks in driveways are completely normal. Concrete naturally expands and contracts with temperature changes. Tiny hairline cracks often appear over time, especially in places with freezing winters or strong summer heat. The real concern usually starts when cracks grow wider, deeper, uneven, or allow significant moisture underneath the surface. That's why many maintenance experts recommend watching cracks carefully instead of automatically panicking. But homeowners often ignore the early warning signs. A narrow crack today may not look serious, yet months of rain, freezing temperatures, vehicle weight, or shifting soil can slowly increase the damage. And here's something many people overlook. Water is often the real problem, not the crack itself. When water enters small gaps, it can weaken surrounding material over time. In colder climates, freezing water expands inside those spaces like pressure building from within. That repeated cycle slowly stresses the concrete. This is where low-cost repair powders became useful in many DIY discussions, not because they destroy cracks forever, but because they may help reduce moisture intrusion when used correctly on suitable surface level damage. And that distinction matters. If you're still watching, this next detail may surprise you. Some older repair practices date back many decades. Before modern synthetic sealants became widely available, builders often relied heavily on mineral-based mixtures, cement powders, sand blends, and lime compounds for repairs. Many historical buildings still standing today used relatively simple materials compared to modern construction chemicals. Of course, technology improved over time. Modern repair systems are usually more advanced, flexible, and durable, but the core principle stayed similar: keep moisture out, protect the surface, reduce further deterioration. That simple idea has existed for generations. Now here's where things start to make sense. A lot of expensive repair costs come not from the crack itself, but from waiting too long. When small surface issues are ignored for years, water damage can spread deeper into foundations, walls, flooring, or surrounding structures. And once that happens, repairs become much more complicated. That's why routine inspection matters more than many homeowners realize. Some people inspect their cars regularly, but never check their driveway condition, basement walls, or garage flooring for early signs of moisture problems. And over time, tiny issues quietly grow larger. Another interesting detail is how climate changes everything. In dry regions, cracks may stay relatively stable for long periods, but in areas with heavy rainfall, snow, freezing winters, or extreme heat swings, surface damage often changes much faster. That's one reason. Repair advice online sometimes sounds inconsistent. A method working in one environment may behave very differently somewhere else. This is also why professionals usually evaluate the type of material, the width of the crack, the moisture level, the surrounding temperature, and whether the crack is cosmetic or structural. Because not every crack means the same thing. Now here's something most people never think about. Even the shape of a crack can tell a story. Straight, thin cracks may simply come from settling or temperature changes. But stair-step cracks in brick walls, large horizontal foundation cracks, or rapidly widening gaps can sometimes indicate more serious movement. That's why experts often recommend paying attention to changes over time rather than just appearance alone. And this is where many viral internet videos become misleading. Online content sometimes shows dramatic before and after repairs in only a few seconds. But real repair work usually involves patience, preparation, monitoring, and realistic expectations. No powder magically fixes every problem. No cheap material replaces professional structural repair when serious damage exists. But understanding basic maintenance principles can still help homeowners make smarter decisions earlier. And honestly, that may be the most valuable lesson here. Not the powder itself, not the product, but the idea that small maintenance habits often prevent larger problems later. Think about it this way. Most damage in homes happens slowly. Leaks develop gradually. Cracks widen over months or years. Moisture builds silently behind surfaces. People usually notice the problem only after visible damage appears. That's why prevention often costs far less than delayed repairs. And here's where it gets especially interesting. Many inexpensive repair materials became popular not because they were hidden secrets, but because they were practical, affordable, easy to store, and simple to apply for minor repairs. That practicality made them common among homeowners who preferred basic maintenance instead of waiting for major deterioration. Now, does that mean every crack should be repaired immediately? Not necessarily. Some tiny hairline cracks remain stable for years without causing major issues. Others may simply be cosmetic, but monitoring them matters, especially if you notice moisture entering indoors, cracks becoming wider, uneven flooring, doors sticking suddenly, or visible shifting around foundations. Those situations deserve closer attention. And if you're still watching, here's one final detail many people overlook completely. Sometimes the most valuable part of DIY repair culture is not the repair itself, it's awareness. People begin paying attention to how buildings behave, how weather affects materials, how water moves through structures, and how small problems grow slowly over time. That awareness alone can help homeowners avoid costly surprises later. Because once you understand the role moisture plays in damage, many things around your home start making more sense. The driveway crack after winter, the basement smell after rain, the garage floor stain that keeps returning, the tiny wall line that slowly becomes visible each year. These things rarely happen instantly. They develop quietly. And often, early attention matters more than expensive solutions later. But this is not the most surprising part. The most surprising part is how many people ignore maintenance completely until damage becomes impossible to avoid. Not because they don't care, but because small issues rarely feel urgent. And human nature naturally focuses on problems we can see immediately. That's why simple educational knowledge can sometimes be powerful, not dramatic, not magical, just useful. Before we finish, it's important to remember something. Every home is different, every climate is different, and every crack tells a different story. This video is not professional construction advice or a guaranteed repair guide. It's simply an educational look at how low-cost repair materials and moisture prevention concepts have been discussed in home maintenance over the years. Real-world results always depend on proper inspection, correct materials, environmental conditions, and the actual cause of the damage. The goal is not fear. The goal is awareness, because understanding how everyday materials work can help people make calmer, smarter decisions over time. And honestly, sometimes the smallest problems teach the biggest lessons. If you enjoy discovering simple truths, overlooked ideas, and everyday knowledge explained in an easy way, then welcome to Hidden Truth Vault. This channel is built for curious people who like learning how ordinary things quietly shape daily life. So if this video made you look at cracks, moisture, or home maintenance differently, let me know in the comments. Have you ever noticed a small repair issue that slowly became a bigger problem later? And what surprised you most in today's story? Don't forget to subscribe for more calm, curiosity-driven videos designed to make everyday topics easier to understand. Until next time, stay curious.